The tablecloth was silk. The girl's feet were bare. But when she asked, "Can I eat with you?" he pushed the plate toward her. The city didn't hum. It growled. Beneath its silver skyline and spotless lobbies, something always waited in the shadows. A truth no one wanted to see on this evening. The truth stood barefoot outside a restaurant window, nose pressed to the glass. She was small, thin, wrapped in an old hoodie 2 sizes too big, and hungry in a way that wasn't just about food. Inside, the room was coated in money, velvet boots, wine glasses that caught chandelier light like stars. Laughter, the soft, sharp kind that only happens when people believe they're above it all. No one noticed the girl, or pretended not to, except one man. He sat at the corner table alone. Dark skin, clean lines, quiet power. Thomas Langston didn't wear his wealth. It sat in the silence around him. In the way the maitre d' bowed deeper than he had to, the way waiters flinched if water wasn't poured exactly right. Thomas had earned this seat, but they still looked twice every time, because no matter how polished his shoes or how rare his watch, he was still black. As Thomas read over the wine list, a shadow appeared at his table. Not a waiter, not a fan, a girl, 7, maybe 8, skin like his, eyes wide and unsure. She looked up and whispered, "Can I eat with you?" The room froze. The waiter rushed over instantly. "Sir, she doesn't belong here." He stopped when Thomas raised a single hand. The girl stood still, not begging, not crying, just asking. And the whole room watched like it was a performance. "Come sit," Thomas said softly, pushing out the chair across from him. The waiter's jaw tightened. "Mr. Langston, may I speak with you privately?" Thomas didn't look at him. "My guest is hungry. We'll order now." Murmurs rippled across the room. Is he serious? She's probably diseased. Doesn't he care about his reputation? A woman in pearls turned her nose. An older man with a glass of Cabernet whispered, "That's what happens when you let charity into fine dining." The girl sat slowly. Her name was Zora. She kept her hands in her lap and her eyes low, like someone who had been taught not to take up space. The table between them was set with silver and crystal. The world around them buzzed with judgment. But inside that small circle of light, Thomas just smiled. "You like mac and cheese?" She blinked, nodded. He signaled to the waiter, "One for me, one for her, and bring dessert, something with strawberries." Outside the window, people passed without glancing in. Just another night in the city. But inside, something quiet was shifting. A truth too soft a name, but too loud to ignore. In the kitchen, chefs debated refusing the order. The head chef scoffed, "This isn't a soup kitchen." But they cooked anyway, because Thomas Langston's name had power earned, but still conditional, the kind they couldn't afford to cross. Zora picked at the napkin. Her fingers were shaking. "You don't have to be nice," she mumbled. "They'll get mad." Thomas leaned in, "Then let them." The waiter returned with the plates. He placed them down stiffly, eyes avoiding Zora's entirely. Thomas caught that. He didn't say a word, just unfolded his napkin, and waited for her to do the same. They ate quietly, every forkful rebellion. Every bite of sermon the room couldn't ignore, and when the strawberry shortcake came, Zora giggled. IT was the first sound in the room louder than shame, but just as her laugh lifted, the manager arrived. Suited, cold, careful. "Sir, may I speak with you in private?" Thomas didn't rise. "If it's about my guest, say it here." The manager glanced at Zora. "She's disrupting the atmosphere. We've received complaints." "I'm afraid we can't allow." Thomas placed his credit card on the table. "Bill, now. And let the owner know," he added, standing slowly, "that I'll be dining elsewhere next quarter, along with my donations." Gasps. One glass dropped. Silence as he turned to Zora. "You ready?" She nodded, strawberry on her cheek, pride in her spine. As they walked out together, no one stopped them, but no one forgot. That night, a table became a battlefield, and a little girl was treated like royalty for the first time in her life. They stepped out into the night air, cool, wide, and indifferent. Thomas held Zora's hand, not like a man saving someone, But like someone returned to something he never truly left behind, he didn't ask questions. She didn't explain. Some silences feel like shelter. They walked 2 blocks without a word. Then Zora glanced up. "You're not going to leave me now, right?" Thomas stopped, kneeled so they were eye to eye. "Not unless you tell me to." She didn't. She just nodded quietly, as if her heart didn't fully believe him yet. He took her to a diner on 440 NO velvet chairs. No glass chandeliers, just 4 mica counters, sticky menus, and a waitress named Dee who called everyone sugar. Zora climbed into the booth slowly. Thomas slid her a hot chocolate. "Cream or marshmallows?" "Both," she whispered, besmiled. "Good choice." Over burgers and syrup-drowned pancakes. She spoke in pieces that N.O. last name. No parents nearby. No home. Just a place behind a gas station, where she sometimes slept when the men weren't around. Thomas didn't interrupt, didn't write anything down. He just listened like a man who'd heard this song before, because he had grown up in a trailer 4 states away. Mama worked 2 jobs. Sometimes 3. He knew what it meant to go to bed hungry and wake up to silence. And he knew what it felt like when people assumed your hunger was your fault. Zora wiped her mouth and asked, "Are you famous?" Thomas chuckled. "I own a few buildings, sit on a few boards." Her brow furrowed. "But they looked at you like you weren't allowed." He took a slow breath. "They always will, until someone makes them look again." She nodded that didn't fully get it, but felt the weight of it. After the meal, he called his driver, told him to take the night off. He walked Zora to his car himself, helped her buckle up like she was made of glass. She stared at the leather seats in awe. "I've never been in a car this soft." "It's just a seat," he said. "You're the special part." Back at his apartment, a high-rise wrapped in gold reflections. She hesitated at the lobby doors. A doorman blinked, startled. "Mr. Langston, everything okay?" Thomas looked at him, then at Zora. "She's with me." The doorman hesitated, then opened the door slowly, like it might break. Inside, the marble floors were too clean, the air too cold. Zora's sneakers squeaked with every step. She shrunk a little. Thomas noticed. He walked slower, let her lead. Upstairs, he showed her the guest room. Fresh sheets, a warm lamp, a window facing the skyline. She didn't speak. She just stood there, unsure whether it was real. He pointed to the closet. "There's clothes in there. My niece leaves stuff when she visits." She opened the door like it might vanish. That IT didn't. Neither did he later. She sat on the edge of the bed, legs swinging. "Are you going to send me back out?" He paused in the hallway. "No, you sure?" "I'm sure." Then softer. "You ever play chess?" She frowned. "What's that?" He grinned. "Come on, let me show you." At the kitchen table, beneath warm lights, they set up the board. Pawns. "Knights. Castles. Which one's the strongest?" she asked. Thomas pointed to the queen. "Moves any direction, any distance." "Can I be that one?" He nodded. "You already are." They played 3 rounds. She lost every one, but she smiled like she was winning something bigger. Like maybe, for the first time, she could imagine a world where she wasn't just surviving it. Before bed, she whispered from the doorway, "Thanks for not saying I was dirty." Thomas turned. "Thanks for reminding me why I started." The next morning, sunlight spilled through skyscrapers, and somewhere inside a tower built for power, a little black girl slept in peace, her shoes finally off. By morning, Zora had rearranged the world without knowing it. Her toothbrush sat next to Thomas's. Her socks curled on his rug like she'd always lived there. But comfort is a fragile thing for people who've had to fight for warmth. And for Thomas, peace never came without a cost. His phone buzzed before 7 emails stacked. Headlines brewed. Millionaire exec shares dinner with street child. Inspires or endangers? Should a homeless child sleep in a bachelor penthouse? Black man's charity. Heartwarming or reckless? He scrolled in silence. Even when he did the right thing, the world twisted it into suspicion, especially because of the color of his hands at BY noon. A photographer had found the diner from last night. BY evening, 2 anchors had mispronounced Zora's name on live TV. Thomas closed the laptop and rubbed his temples. Guess kindness needs a press release now, he muttered. Zora sensed attention before he said a word. She sat cross-legged on the kitchen stool, eating cereal. You mad at me? She asked. Quietly. Thomas looked up. All his defenses dropped. No, baby girl. I'm mad at the world. That afternoon, he got a call from the board. Polite voices with sharp edges. Thomas, we support your outreach, but optics matter. The foundation's image is built on discretion. Are you adopting her? Sponsoring her? We need to define this. He let them talk. Let them squirm around words they couldn't say aloud. Black man. Little girl. Public attention. The judging behind every syllable. Then he ended the call mid-dash sentence. N.O. apology. N.O. clarification. At dinner. Zora asked him how you know who your people are. Thomas paused. It's the ones who don't flinch when you cry. She nodded like she knew that feeling too well. He took her shopping that weekend. Not some glitzy mall. ADA small shop in Harlem run by a seamstress who called her baby and handed her a satin headband with a wink. Zora twirled in a yellow dress. Thomas smiled. She wasn't healing. Not yet. But she was beginning to unfold. Later that night, as they played chess again, she asked, You think my mom is mad I left? Thomas paused. Wherever she is, I think she's proud you made it this far. Zora nodded but didn't smile. Grief wears quiet clothes in children. It hides behind giggles and stares out windows when no one's watching. Then came the knock. Sharp. Professional. Child Protective Services did a woman with a clipboard and clipped voice, another with polite eyes and flat questions. How long has she been here? Are you legally related? Has she received medical evaluation? Thomas remained calm, but Zora trembled beside him. The taller woman reached out to take her hand. Thomas stepped between them. She's safe here. That's not for you to decide, sir. No, it's for her to decide. He looked down to Zora's fingers gripped his pant leg like a lifeline. They asked her privately if she'd been touched, if she'd been bribed. Threatened. She stared at them blankly, then said, He gave me strawberries and socks and a place where no one yells. The silence in that room was louder than sirens. They left with forms and fake smiles, but before the elevator doors closed, one of them whispered, You know this'll be on the news, right? Thomas didn't answer. He just stood tall, a black man in a glass tower, daring the world to look again. That night, Zora didn't want to sleep in the guest room. She curled on the couch beside him. Will they take me away? I won't let them, he whispered. You sure? I'm sure. She closed her eyes, but he didn't. Outside, city lights blinked like warning signs. Inside, a man braced for a fight he thought he'd left behind. Because even in his own home, his skin still stood trial. They came on a Tuesday, and oh warning, and oh kindness. Just state seals on jackets, cameras across the street, and the quiet violence of legal procedure. Zora was brushing her teeth. Thomas was pouring coffee. Neither of them was ready. Sir, step back. We have a removal order. Zora screamed. Thomas moved forward, arms out, not in defiance, in instinct. But in their eyes, that was enough. .3 uniform's tense .1 hand moved toward a holster, and suddenly Thomas remembered what his mother used to whisper. Don't give them an excuse, baby. Not for himself, for her, because one wrong breath in the wrong skin could rewrite a lifetime. They took her, not cruelly, not gently. Like paperwork with legs, her face behind the window of the social services van shattered him more than anything he'd ever lost. She didn't cry. She just looked back at him, not like a child to a parent, but like a soldier to a general, silent, unmoving, braver than she should have had to be. The building manager watched from the lobby, pretending to organize mail. The doorman looked away. Even the elevator refused to open in time. That night, the apartment felt like a museum of something. Extinct. Her socks on the floor, her cereal bowl in the sink, the faint scent of strawberry shampoo still lingering in the hall. Thomas sat on the edge of the guest bed, holding the chess queen in his palm on the news. They called it a well-intentioned case of overreach. But they never mentioned that Zora had no record and no living relatives in the system. They never asked what her choice was, only what his motive might be. Because a rich black man helping a poor black girl must be a scandal, Must be something more. The next morning, Thomas put on a suit. Not the expensive one, the one he wore when he buried his mother. Dark, heavy, armor made of thread. He walked straight to family court, an OPR team and an old lawyer. Just truth and fury wrapped in calm. The clerk tried to redirect him. Tried to explain the process. He didn't blink. I'm not here to be processed. I'm here to be heard. They made him wait 0.3 hours on purpose. When the judge finally saw him, she asked if he was the girl's biological father. No, he said, but I am her lifeline. The state lawyer interrupted. She has no official guardian. She had no one. Until she asked me to share a meal. The judge raised an eyebrow. You believe a meal makes you fit? Thomas leaned forward. No, Your Honor. But the world taught that child she was unwanted. That night, she learned she wasn't invisible. And since then, she's laughed, slept, played chess. She's been a child again, maybe for the first time. Silence. Then the judge glanced down, unreadable. The verdict wouldn't come that day. But the war had begun. Back home, Thomas opened a letter from a board. Suspension pending investigation. Loss of public funding and emergency vote scheduled. And oh, surprise, just speed. They'd waited for a reason to cut him loose. He'd handed them one, wrapped in strawberry smiles and tiny sneakers. The next morning, he visited the diner. Dee handed him a brown bag, French toast, extra syrup, just in case she comes back. He took it, held it like glass. Outside, it started to rain and oh thunder, just that steady kind of drizzle that makes everything feel like a funeral. In a city of noise, one apartment stood quiet. A man alone, but not defeated. Because even after losing everything, he still had one unshakable truth. He would fight for her. Even if the world didn't point 3 days past, each one longer than the last, Thomas sat in silence most hours, staring at the doorway like Zora might return through it any second. She didn't. But the world? It started watching the photo had surfaced. Zora in her yellow dress, grinning beside Thomas at the chessboard, NO captions. Just raw beauty and a little black girl glowing with safety beside a man whose presence whispered home. The image spread fast, not through tabloids, but in people's hearts. Mothers reposted it with tears. Activists shared it with fury. Educators, foster kids, former case workers, all flooding comment sections with 3 words. Let her stay. The media tried to dig deeper, smear him. Accusations spun. Why didn't he go through proper channels? Isn't he exploiting her story? One anchor slipped and called Zora a liability. The backlash with Swift.1 tweet read, You see a liability. We see legacy. At night, Thomas sat on the rooftop, staring at the city lights. He hadn't fought this hard since the days when his skin was called a distraction in boardrooms. He thought he'd made peace with that battle. But racism doesn't ask permission to come back. IT just waits for you to breathe on the 4th day. His doorbell rang. He opened it expecting another legal threat. But found Dee, the diner waitress, standing there with a folded note in her hand. She came back last night. Asked me to give you this. His fingers trembled. He opened it slowly out a child's handwriting. Big letters. Wobbly spelling. Don't be sad. I told him I picked you. I'll wait. I know you'll win. Zora. Tears didn't fall. They broke. Years of restraint dissolved in one paper square. She still believed in him. Even when the system did, he called his attorney that night. Not his corporate one, the one who marched beside him in '98 during that wrongful arrest in Charlotte. A brother with fire in his gut. They got to work. The next morning, Thomas walked into court with a folder, a chess piece in his pocket, and 3,000 letters of support printed from across the country. He didn't just bring facts. He brought stories. Testimonies from foster homes that failed, videos of Zora laughing in his care. He played the voicemail she left from the shelter. Her voice. Mr. Thomas, they gave me a bed. It's not as warm as yours, but I'm okay. I miss your pancakes. I miss Dee. I miss being seen. The judge listened, and something cracked in her silence. Not pity, not politics, but truth. The kind you don't argue with, the kind that stings because it's real. 2 hours later, the court recessed. But before Thomas left the bench, the judge looked up and spoke gently. Mr. Langston, I've never seen a child speak so clearly without being in a room. Outside the courthouse, cameras swarmed. But Thomas didn't speak. He just looked at the sky. And for the first time all week, he smiled. That night, there was a knock on Dee's diner door. She opened after hours, knowing somehow who it'd be. Zora stood there, shoes muddy, eyes bright. They said I could leave if someone came for me. Thomas stepped out from the shadows behind her. Someone did. She ran into his arms so fast. Her hood flew off mid-sprint. He caught her, held her like a man hugging hope itself. And behind them, Dee wept softly. The rain had stopped. The city didn't growl, IT breathed. They walked home with no press, no noise. Just sneakers tapping pavement. And one little girl saying, "Next time, I want strawberry pancakes and blueberries." And Thomas laughing like a man who finally remembered how. Weeks passed. The city moved on. But inside apartment 17B, something sacred had begun. Routine, warmth, a rhythm of healing not declared on the news, but written into small things. Matching mugs, laundry days, chessboards that never got put away. Zora now woke to the smell of coffee and gospel humming through the hallway. She knew where the forks went. She corrected Thomas when he burned toast. She asked questions about music, the stock market, Harriet Tubman, and why people still stare when they walk together. He never sugarcoated the answers, but he always ended them with, "You belong." One Sunday, she sat in the living room scribbling math homework, Thomas watching the kitchen, moved by something deeper than love. Honor. This wasn't charity. This was a rescue. This was a promise to her, to himself, and every child he once was. But the world doesn't forget fast. The board voted he lost his position. His name, once engraved on a glass conference room, was replaced quietly and no statement. No thanks. Just distance. He didn't contest it, didn't host a press conference. He walked out of that building in a black coat, holding Zora's hand. And when she asked, "Do you miss being in charge?" he smiled. "I still am." He started something new, not for investors, not for headlines at a foundation for forgotten kids. Kids like Zora, kids like him. No desks, just community kitchens, beds with real pillows, and walls painted in stories on the opening day. Zora gave the first speech in a yellow dress with purple sneakers. She didn't cry. She didn't stutter. She looked into the crowd like she knew who she was, and said, "Sometimes home is not where you come from. It's who sits with you when the world says don't." The room stood still, then clapped like it would never stop. That night, they walked home through the city, lights blinking like fireflies above them. Zora asked, "Do you think the people who took me still think they were right?" Thomas paused. "Maybe." "Do you hate them?" He looked at her. "No. I pity anyone who looks at love and sees danger." They crossed the avenue. A couple on the corner stared, whispered. Zora noticed. Thomas didn't flinch. "Will they always do that?" she asked. He nodded. "Probably." She thought for a moment, then raised her chin and waved at the couple. Bold, regal, proud. They looked away first. Back home, she placed the chess queen on the kitchen shelf. "I don't need to win anymore," she said. "I just want to play." Thomas smiled. "You already changed the board." Later, as she drifted asleep, he sat by her doorway, book in hand, lamp on low, not guarding, just witnessing. Because some nights don't need stories. Some just need presence. Outside, the city was loud. But inside that apartment, peace reigned. In a world where a black man still has to prove kindness, and a little black girl is treated like a threat before a treasure. One table, one meal, one yes, had rewritten everything. And the last line he whispered to her that night, soft like gospel, "They can take titles, but they can't touch what love builds."